I've always got to try an intro, haven't I? This is pretty much going to be the Underachievement Era Part 2, because I was walking the dog and I was thinking on the way back from that it's yet another newly promoted team that Sunderland have lost to. No, we've never done that before. Right, first of all, I wasn't at the game, but from what I've been told of people who were at the game, apparently second half we battered Watford and couldn't have done anything more except obviously score. But bearing in mind from what I just saw the stats, we only had 2 shots on target at home to a newly promoted side. It says it all. But at the same time, started poorly, conceded early on again, and I just don't get it. I don't get what there seems to be something wrong in the mentality at the club saying we are not allowed to beat teams like Watford, Leicester, Norwich and Bournemouth and etc. And Bournemouth, who just won themselves, by the way. Not what we needed whatsoever. That's now 2 games Bournemouth that should really lose both of them and have won both of them. But fair credit to them, deserve it. So they're at least winning games. No, I mean, I'm not attaching any blame to Sam Allardyce because he's trying to work the best he can with what players he's got. But this was a damaging loss today, and Watford have done very well this season, but they're still a team we should be beating, especially at the Stadium of Light. If this was at Vicarage Road, I can somewhat excuse it and say fair enough. It's away from home, they've done well this season, that's fair enough. Sorry, there's something on the camera. That's fair enough. They've done that. But at the Stadium of Light, I'm sorry, this should be a Sunderland banker of 3 points, really. And even as a team, Watford haven't... they're doing well, but they're not exceptional. That's the whole point. On me. I don't like it when people use this, oh, we're not good enough, that's why we're down there. No, it's not that. I'm sorry. People who say they weren't good enough obviously didn't sound like that. That was me perfectly exaggerating. But what I mean by that is, I just simply refuse to believe it. We are good enough. We've proven in the past that we can do it. We're clearly good enough. We were good enough to beat Newcastle and Stoke, and even though both those teams were down to 10 men, regardless, we still had to win, and we still won. Even if we played shite against Newcastle, we still beat them. Crystal Palace, who thumped Newcastle, who went to Anfield and won, went to Chelsea and won, drew against Manchester United as well. Everton couldn't beat Crystal Palace, and we could. We are clearly good enough. Even against West Ham, I kept on thinking, when I was looking at during that first half, in Dick Advocaat's last game before he left, I was looking at the players in the first half, and Sunderland were doing something that I, quite frankly, had not seen them do all season prior to that game. Getting stuck in, putting tackles in, putting the effort, closing West Ham down, blocking any attempts that they had to score, go 2-0 up. Had a great chance with Barini to go 3-0 up. There's that proof. It's bloody proof. It's proof that we're good enough. We should be good enough to beat Watford. We should be good enough to beat Leicester. We should be good enough to beat Bournemouth. And we definitely should be good enough to beat Norwich. More than good enough to beat Norwich at home. It's not this game in isolation that annoys me now. It's games earlier in the season where we've been, quite frankly, unprofessional. Come on, Sunderland. Really? You can do better than that, man. For goodness sake. And... Leicester, right. I'm going to quickly go through the games in isolation again. I did this in the Underachievement Era video, but lads, this is kind of part 2 to it. Yeah. Leicester. We didn't know what to expect from them. 3-0 down, 25 minutes. Norwich. Lost 3-1 at home. Just barely scraped through the Championship playoffs to get into the Premier League, might I add. Bournemouth. As long as Sunderland stay up as well, Bournemouth I would love to stay in the Premier League, but they're a Championship team. And now Watford. Again, we're in the Championship last year. Had to go through 4 different bloody managers to come up to the Premier League. And we can't even beat any of the... We had to lose against all 4 of these sides. What does that say, man? You know, I'm not. From what I heard, we played all right in the second half, so I'm not going to dig at the players and performance for this game. It's those Leicester, Bournemouth, and Norwich games that annoy me. You know, what the fuck? What's the actual fuck? And again, given the 3 fixtures we've got coming up, we needed to get a win or at least something a day out of today's game. Nah, can't be bothered to do that. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Let me know in the comments below. But I feel like this because it's the exact same problem that we've seen since the 12-13 season. The players who clearly are better than relegation contenders just can't be bothered. They might, Connor Wickham's a good example of this. Half the time last season, he couldn't be bothered. He was more worried. He was too worried about getting his sock dirty rather than actually getting stuck into the place in midfield or anywhere else on the pitch. But this brings me back to the fact that this problem at Sunderland is not just the manager. It can't be. We've had this for 4 seasons now, if you include this one. It is not just the manager. Look at the games we've lost. Like I said, the games I've mentioned, right? Look, Bournemouth is a good example of this because it's about, I think it's 5 or 6 games into the season. Now, surely with Dick Advocaat, the great Dick Advocaat, the biggest signing of the summer, what he should have done for that game was had Sunderland look at what Bournemouth do. Look at the way they play. At home, they're going to come right onto you and make it difficult as fuck for you in the first 10 minutes. We knew they were going to do that. I knew they were going to do that. So tell me, how on earth do these Premier League professional players, who claim to be Premier League professional players, how on earth do they not know what Bournemouth are going to do? There is no research done into the opposition by the looks of it. Maybe there has been under Sam Allardyce, I don't know. But certainly before he came in, there was no indication whatsoever that there was actually any research done into the opposition. Like I said, Norwich, unlucky to get beat off Crystal Palace, but they play with a high pressing tempo. Not to mention they've just got promoted, mind you, so they are going to be much harder to play against. So how on earth did Sunderland not know they were going to do this, and how the fuck did we not even prepare for that? We didn't even prepare for bloody Leicester or Bournemouth to do that. Even today, Ikelo and Dini. Ikelo scores the goal. We know that he's prolific, and we know that they're going to give you problems. So how on earth did the defenders not prepare for this? How do they not know what he's going to do? Maybe I'm digging too much shit into the players for this game, but I think I'm justified in doing that in earlier matches. We knew the problems that we've done this so many times. We know the weakness, the strengths of other teams, and yet we don't even do any homework on it. We don't even try to act on it. We don't even look like we're going to close anybody. We don't look like we're going to stop the opposition from playing. Nothing. How did and this is a bigger point. Like I mentioned in the Underachievement Era video, the board, that's the big problem that's killing this club. I was just watching Sam Allardyce's interview with the BBC Football with Guy Mowbray, and he was saying that, now he thinks, given the chances we've squandered in the last 2 games, we need a goal scorer. Hello, Charlie Austin for 8 million. Oh, I'm sorry. Dick, Ellis Short's too tight with his money. Now, don't get me wrong. Ellis Short has invested a lot of money into the club in the last few years. But over the last, say 13, 14, since 2013, the summer of 2013, what has he done in terms of trying to make this club better? Not just making up the numbers, I mean actual quality. Now look at 13-14. We had 14 new players come in. We spent about £20 million. 6.5 million on Josie Altidore. Come on. Josie Altidore. Last season, sacked Gus Poyet because there wasn't any progression. Well, I'm sorry, mate, but if you're not going to give him much money to spend, chances are you're not going to see much development. 15 million pound, I believe, was spent in the summer of 2014. 10 million, 2/3 of that went on one player who was injured for the God knows of 2 years. And then this summer, take Barini and Lenz out of the equation. Kabul, 3 million. Fair enough, I think he's been a decent signing, but 3 million. Quatters and Matthews, 2 million. Quatters, inconsistent, squad player at best. Matthews hasn't even played for us as far as I know. And the rest of the team, Toivonen and Villa and Yedlin, all loans. Now, in Villa aside, who is a quality midfielder, and Sunderland better have the ambition to try and sign him permanently. In fact, better sign him permanently at the end of the season. Toivonen, weak as piss in the midfield, looks exhausted after 5 minutes, and just generally doesn't suit what we're trying to do. Maybe he suits the Sam Allardyce style, but that's Sam Allardyce trying to make do with him until January. Yedlin. Now, nothing against Yedlin as a player, but look at the way that was handled. Lee Congerton should have known this. We had 2 specialist right-backs, albeit an injury-prone specialist right-back in Adam Matthews, and then you had Billy Jones as well. Now, yes, Jones can play left-back, but he's not a specialist left-back. So why on earth did we go for Yedlin? We needed a left-back. You've had 2 months in the transfer window to try and fix this problem, mate, and you can't even get anyone over the line. The board think of this club as too much as a business and not as a football club. And generally in the club, like in the media department, in PR department, there's genuinely some good people at the club who care about the club as a football basis. But I'm talking about the likes of Ellis Short, etc. You know, Margaret Byrne, Gary Hutchinson. Now, I'm sure they're nice people in real life. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slagging them off as people, but I'm questioning what they do on a footballing basis for the board, for the club. What? Nothing as far as I know. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you know something I don't. I'm not trying to insult anybody or hurt anyone's feelings or anything, but I feel like this club has shown no progression over the last few years. And it's about time that stopped. Austin, for example, if we get him, he's available, could be available for around £8 million or upwards based on what I've read so far, even if that's true. If it is, go for him. Well done to Watford. You got the win. You probably won't get relegated. I just hope Sunderland get a little bit of revenge and beat yous on the last day of the season at the very least. Oh well. Just Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool, eh?